Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. I'm your host, Rashid, and we'd like to thank you for giving us another minute of your day, another hour of your time, especially with so much going on in the news. We know that people are swamped trying to get everything prepared for their families and trying to kind of go through the motions and try to put themselves in a better position financially and and mentally and spiritually in this great and dreadful day that we're now in, because we're watching the collapse of an entire, not just an entire country or a republic, but we're watching the entire collapse of a world, the entire Western world order, which has dominated the globe in politics, culture, religion, military, and economics, is in a downward spiral. We see that with our eyes, we hear it with our ears, we can taste it with our mouths, because all you have to do is look at the food that you get now. It's inferior to the food that you once got 10, 15 years ago. As a matter of fact, um, I had some bananas. I bought some bananas a few days, I think it was a week or two ago, and I believe I touched on it on the show. And within a day or two, when I went back to get the bananas, I got them, they were green. I did that on purpose. When I went back to get them, they were yellow with brown specks in them. So it shows you the smallness of it shows you the degradation, not only in morality and ethics, but it shows you the food supply, how they would rather make $1 than to give you something healthy. They're always experimenting on something. You know, it's never good enough. What God makes is never good enough. They feel that they have to improve on everything that God made. Right? It's crazy. But I want to touch on a few things. And I see comments, but I want to touch on a few things, especially what is now in the news. Okay. Um, there was a mass shooting in Chesapeake, Virginia, and the reason I have to address this, yes, because there was a mass shooting, but because that touches home. I used to live in that area. I used to live in Norfolk, Virginia. So Chesapeake was one of my stomping grounds, okay? Um, and my sister lives in my oldest sister, she lives in Newport News. So that is, like I said, all of that is like right together. So um, when I heard of this, it just blew my mind. So I want to go to an article, and I just want to read to you something. This is by wavy.com, I believe. And they're touching on the situation in Chesapeake. And I want to do this specifically to show you the time that we're living in. I want to do this specifically to show you that everybody is not sound. They may look as though they are mentally sound, but just any disturbance rocks their foundation and they just lose because they're not firmly uh, hinged on reality. They're not firmly in the uh, on the base of God. And when God is not your base, anything is possible of evil. Anything can upset you or set you off. I want to read something, but this has to be updated because it says 6 killed, but I was reading a few minutes ago that say 7 killed. Okay, 6 killed, 4 remain hospitalized after mass shooting at Chesapeake Walmart. Okay, now it says, um, let's see what is going on here. Hold on one second. We have okay, there we are. It says 7 now at the bottom. It says 7 dead, including the gunman. Chesapeake, Virginia. Authorities say 7 people, including the suspect, are dead following a mass shooting Tuesday night at a Walmart just off Battlefield Boulevard. I know exactly where that's at, in Chesapeake, Virginia. Police say there were multiple counts of both dead and injured found inside the building where the shooting occurred. A greeter on duty at the time told Wavy the shooting started in the back of the store. One person was also found deceased outside the front entrance. And it goes on to say the call reporting the shooting came in at 10:12 p.m. when the Walmart Supercenter was still open to the public. Night shift workers had just recently checked in. Chesapeake held an 8 a.m. news conference Wednesday with updates on the investigation. Police Chief Mark Salusky confirmed the gunman was an employee at the store. That's where I want to get to, right there. The employee wasn't, I mean, the gunman was an employee at the store. See, a lot of you don't realize that a lot of people are dealing with a lot of issues outside of the home and inside the home. And because things are changing so rapidly, if you are not grounded in God, if God is not your foundation, things like this will happen. And some people have God as their foundation, but they become consumed by social media and the air of trying to present themselves as successful or popular or something like that. And as they present that, and the reality of their lives does not match that, dissatisfaction sets in. Okay, jealousy sets in, and as I told you on the last show, from jealousy it turns to envy, and envy will make you kill somebody. Yeah, so a lot of people say, "Oh, that person was killed because of jealousy." No, jealousy is the precursor to envy. Jealousy will make you talk about a person. Jealousy will make you start hating on the person. But as the jealousy festers, it turns into envy, and envy is what allows you to justify madness and kill somebody like that. Okay, but the reason I touched on this, as I said, is because it's an issue, it's a hot button issue in America. These mass shootings, which are taking place across the country. So this is not an isolated episode, an isolated event. This is something that is now the norm, the run of the mill. People will come in and gun you down over you saying something that they don't like, bumping into them, stepping on their shoes. Someone told them that they saw you with their girlfriend or their boyfriend or something like that. And all their mind is focusing on is taking you out. Now, on the previous show, I was telling you about an incident that took place at my daughter's job. As she was working, she saw certain things that was going on, but she didn't realize what was happening until the next time when I took her to work. All right, my 16-year-old daughter. And she found out that the maintenance man had come to work with a gun in his jacket against policy rules, okay? And as soon as he got into a disagreement with one of the co-workers' boyfriends, he immediately reached for the gun and was going to pop him. If it were not for the staff or the crew stepping in and grabbing him, he would have done that. The same with this guy in Walmart. He went to Walmart with a gun, right? Went into the Walmart center where he works at with the gun. Why? If the policy is to not have guns, you can have it in your car or you can have it somewhere else, but you cannot have it on the premises of the building. Why would you do that unless you were expecting someone or you were wishing that someone crossed you? I'm asking you these things because when you are disconnected from the root, listen to me good, and this is not religious saying, but when you're disconnected from the root of righteousness, or when you become disconnected, or when your wires get entangled, materialism and this thing that has swept the nation and the globe of trying to be the most popular or the most liked starts to eat at you. And all you can harp on is somebody offended you, or all you can harp on is that person continues to get this, and I can't get it, and I'm working hard, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that, and all of that builds up and boils inside of you. And at the switch, just the flip of a switch, you go from Mr. Nice Guy and pow, 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 pow. That is the culture of the day. And it is represented not just in, because they want to put this on rap music, which rap music is of death and violence. But this is permeated all throughout the government, and it comes from the top down. Whenever you get in a disagreement with the United States government, what do? They reach for their gun, their military muscle, right? If you don't do this, then we will do this to you, even when they're in the wrong. And then when they finally are confronted about being wrong, they'll laugh about it. Well, yeah, that was it. It was bad intelligence, and just cast away the lives of millions, the independence of nations, right? And how they destroyed national infrastructure of other countries. Europe is paying the price for it right now. Europe is paying for it right now. America is paying for it right now. And I'm going to tell you how they're paying for it. See, you see how we connect these gun shootings and this disconnect from God to the reality of what's going on with American policy? Nobody's talking about that. Nobody really goes into that because nobody wants to put the blame where the blame lies. They want to blame everybody. You see, the European Union, we cannot take all of these refugees in. We cannot do this. This would be suicide. And you see everybody run with that. You see the U.S. government and people are talking about the border needs to be secured. There are millions of illegal aliens coming in from the border, through the border, right? And if they're going to come in, they need to come in by legal means. But they don't tell you the core of why these things are happening, okay? Muammar Gaddafi, the former leader of, at the time, the most successful and the richest nation on the Mediterranean, not just in Africa, but the richest nation on the Mediterranean. Guess who borders the Mediterranean? A lot of European countries. At the time of Muammar Gaddafi's rule, Libya was the richest country on the Mediterranean. Let me say that again. So Europe did not have to deal with this, what they call influx of refugees. And in one speech, Muammar Gaddafi, he got wind of them plotting to remove him or remove his government. And he warned Europe, you don't understand what this means. Right now, I stand as the bulwark between an influx of refugees coming into Europe or me providing them with assistance to keep them where they are. He warned them, if you get rid of me, then you will be facing a situation that will be untenable, right? Okay. The United States, France, Germany, Italy, UK, the Netherlands, all of these nations disregarded this warning he gave to them. And so what they did, they bombed Libya back to the Stone Age to keep the gold dinar from coming forward and to destroy the water aqueducts that would have enriched the entire desert basin of Africa and turned it into fertile farmland, making Africa self-sufficient in agriculture. They did this on purpose. They knew what they were doing, okay? From that point, you have an influx of refugees into Europe. And now Europe is crying about refugees. You destroyed a nation that stood as the stopgap to them coming in. You killed the leader and went after his family. And you want to cry and moan about the influx of refugees when you not listen to me good. When America and Europe goes into countries, they don't just kill the leaders. If they feel that their country is a threat, they destroy the government institutions which make the nation viable. And so it reverts to gang politics. So what you see in Libya is a divided Libya, warlords. Look what they did to Afghanistan. Warlords. And then you want to cry and moan that there's an influx of refugees. Hell, that is your fault. You are reaping the whirlwind of your policies, and you cannot cry about that. The same it is with America. As an influx of Latin refugees come up through the border. This is all blowback from the U.S. policies of overthrow and installing dictators in these Latin American countries and destabilizing the governments. And of course, if you destroy the governments and the institutions of the governments, if you destroy the stability of the governments, the people, the average people, will want to migrate from where it is violence and unstable instability to a place where it seems to be riches and stability. This is a direct result of American arrogance and imperialism. So on one hand, you want to whine and cry about the influx of refugees, but you never want to address why the refugees are coming through the border. This is, I mean, it boggles my mind when I think about this, because no alternative, so-called alternative media talks about this. No mainstream media addresses this. And yet these people have 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 subscribers, and they never get to the root of things. They string you along just enough to keep your attention. And they talk about things that they know that's acceptable to you. But sometimes you got to tell people things that might not be acceptable to them. Sometimes you have to have a hard face-to-face talk with people to inform them of their involvement in this stuff. You can't let them go free if they are the cause of it. That would be tantamount to the rapist going to court and the judge say, well, you know what? We hear the victim talking, but you did have a history of wearing loose clothes, so we're going to let the rapist go. You've got to talk to both sides, and you've got to get to the core issues. And this is missing in political talk and conversation. This is missing in geopolitical talk and conversation. This is missing in economic talk and conversation. It even goes all the way up to the cultural level, because you got everybody doing this, blaming everybody else, right? Nobody wants to accept the responsibility for the acts that are now taking place. So when you look at the Chesapeake mass shooting, you don't have to do nothing but turn your head to the other direction, and you can look through the news and see that another mass shooting took place, and then another mass shooting took place, and then you ask yourself, well, why? Why? And then you look at American policy, not just her international policies, but her domestic policies. Just like a child looks to his parent for guidance, and the child, as it grows, it mimics and imitates what it saw its parents doing, so too do the public or the populace with their government. Right? You don't like that, do you? Because it shines a light back on America. Right? But I have to tell you the truth, whether you like it or not. So listen to what this says right here. And I just saw my co-host in the booth. I'm gonna bring him in just a second, in a few minutes. Hold on one second, Rashid. I got my daughter. I got my tea in here, my hot tea in with my daughter cup, because I couldn't find my cup. It's best sister ever. But anyway, listen, it says the call reporting the shooting came in at 10:12 p.m. Tuesday, when the Walmart Supercenter was still open to the public. Night shift workers had just recently checked in. Chesapeake had held an 8 a.m. news conference with updates on the investigation. Police Chief Mark Selesky confirmed the gunman was an employee at the store. He said the gunman used a pistol in the deadly mass shooting. The shooter's next of kin has not been notified. They did not identify the gunman during the Wednesday morning press conference. Now, what does this show you? What does this show you? Because this is not isolated. In almost every every couple of days you see a mass shooting in America, where at least 3, 4, 5 people are shot, whether they die or not. You see multiple shootings, right? They're playing by the same rules that the American government is playing by. No matter where you go across the globe, America is involved in these people's business. And they are always the terrorists. They're always the provocative ones. That is the mind state of a lunatic. Wherever trouble is at, and you are there, but it's never you. You had some people that you knew like that. Whenever an argument took place, wherever a fight took place, wherever there was some mess or something that took place, that person was always there and was always able to tell somebody what took place, but they were always the victim, right? And then sooner or later, when it finally came out, that they were the ones who were always keeping the mess up. This is America. This is America. And the way her scribes, which is the media, the way her scribes write things and present them to the public, it dumbs down the brain cells, the thinking ability of the people. America will fly nuclear armed B strategic bombers within a 12 or 13-mile range of Russia or China, and they'll send up warplanes, and the warplanes will shadow the bombers and do loops around the bombers. But the Western media will report that Russia or China made aggressive moves towards U.S. planes that were in international airspace. Isn't that something? And then if Russia or China, most likely Russia sends war bombers or something within a 12 to 16-mile range of the United States, Russia is being belligerent. And America sends planes up, and she does the same thing, but America was defending her airspace and the security of her people. This lets you know that these major newspapers, these major blogs are in bed with the government apparatus. There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that. When you can not only bend the truth, but you flip the truth, and you are always the victim, and the people who are the victim always become the aggressor. That's amazing, man. I'm telling you. And you buy this stuff hook, line, and sinker. So I'm gonna bring Rashid in just a second, but I wanted to sit here and I wanted to address these issues because nobody does. I sit and I watch all of these so-called alternative shows, popular shows, and none of them ever address this stuff. They may address a little bit and passing by, but they don't. And I got an email by somebody, and I have to address this also. But before I do this, this is not a paid advertisement. This is something I'm going to bring up before I address the email. I want to bring this up and show you for those of you who are 40 or 45 and over, and you know you're scared of prostate problems or whatever like that, or your blood flow is being restricted or something like that, and you need to become more frequent in the bathroom, and you need to have a little bit more stamina and a little more energy to do exercises and your stuff. Well, look at this. My wife bought me this. I sent her to get me something that was rich of nitric oxide, right? And I also sent her to get me some other pills as I start my thing back into trying to get myself back in fighting shape for martial arts or whatever. So look, she comes back with this right here. Let me see. This right here, beetroot powder. Not just any beetroot powder, concentrated, right? And you can get it at like vitamin stores or something like this. This and it's plant-based, is organic, fully organic. I got to tell you this because this will help you. All right. This is no advertisement. I'm not receiving nothing, but I want to tell you what happened. I got this a few days ago. And it was around about 8:30, I believe. I took a scoop. The scoops are small. The scoops may be, you see this lip balm. The scoop may be about roughly about that big. You mix that with your favorite drink or water. You stir it up, and to be honest with you, not that bad. I thought it would be terrible because you know how beet juice is. I took it with, this is the truth. Within 5 minutes, my stomach started bubbling. And yeah, you're going to start passing gas, not being vulgar, but I got to tell you this stuff because a lot of people, a lot of men 45 or older suffer from, you know, not being able to use the restroom regularly or having prostate or colon problems. And this is something that, or low nitric oxide. And this right here is what regulates the blood. So I'm gonna just, y'all bear with me. Let me just tell you this, and then we'll get back to the news because your health is very, very important. So she got me this within 5 minutes of taking it because I'm thinking, yeah, it's just any other thing. So I took it. 5 minutes, my stomach is bubbling, and I'm passing gas. I'm like, what is going on here? Not realizing that I took this 5 minutes earlier. Within 10 minutes from that 5 minutes, which is 15 minutes, I'm in the bathroom. And I went in the bathroom and I stayed in the coming out, going back in, coming out, going back in. And when the stuff finally stopped, I felt so refreshed. I felt so much better. I was telling my mother about it when I went to have coffee with her. She was laughing about it when I was telling her about it that night when I was going through it. But this beet stuff, this actually works, and it's rich in nitric oxide. It's a superfood. It helps with circulation and blood pressure support, which especially Black people need, and natural energy and stamina. It is called beetroot powder. It's from plant, PLNT, not PLANT, PLNT. You can Google it. She got it from the vitamin shop for me. It's organic. You will want that if you're over 45. Okay, I just want you to know that, so that you can stay alive. Do your best to stay healthy and stay alive. Okay. I thought it was a trick. I took the stuff. I had to ask her, did you get this from Walmart? She was like, oh no, I got it from the vitamin store. But I was like, my God, I didn't know that it was going to work as quick as it worked and as well as it has been working. And this is only a couple of days. But anyway, now, so I get an email. And the person is asking me about my take on things globally and why do I blame America for certain things. And I'm like, blame America? All I'm doing is laying out the facts. Now, you blame whoever you want, but when the facts are laid out, it becomes obvious, just like if you were in the courtroom. If the prosecution lays out a concrete case, in reality, the prosecution is not accusing the defendant. The prosecution is laying down a case that drops bricks along the way that leads to and points towards the defendant. Okay, that's all I do. That's all we do on the show. We drop bricks of truth. Now, they asked me a few other things, and I'm not going to be able to answer everything, but they asked me a few other things about the show. And do we ever get mad that other people come listen to the show and then they take it, bigger shows and take the stuff? No, we don't. So long as the truth gets out, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I don't care anything about that. This is not for popularity. This is not for self-aggrandizement. This is for truth to get out. Okay? Because so many people are being exploited mentally. And what's amazing about it is this so-called learned class of the enlightened, those are the ones that get exploited even more because they have a particular group that they deal with. And once they get in bed with that particular group, it's easy to infiltrate that group and then lead them slowly somewhere else. You understand? But we want to give you the truth unadulterated. We want to give you the truth as it is. That's the alarm. Let me know that we've been on 30 minutes or whatever like this. I'm gonna bring Rashid in, and then we're gonna go into some more news. Okay. And I'll look back through the emails because I got so many of them, and I'll do emails and I'll try to bring them up. Oh, and another one. This let me see if I can. Hold on one second. again. Let me move this real quick. Martial arts, and those are the martial arts. This right here. That it popped up and then it went down. Let's see if we me. Okay, that's me in the weight room, all of that stuff. Yeah. So, and yo, you guys pay attention to everything. You pay attention to everything, except some of you don't pay attention to the right things. Let me bring Rashid in, and I'm gonna ask him how you doing today, my brother. I can't hear you. Hold on 1 second. Let me see. Hold on. They might have you muted. Hold on. Let me see. Because I know how they work. Your guest is not. Let's see. Your guest. Can I mute your guest? Your mic is not connected. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put you back in the booth until you get your mic connected. So, but anyway, again, we're talking on world issues. We're talking on a lot of things. I want to bring a few things to you. I have a few clips that I want to share with you all, right? And some of this goes back to right when the United States left Afghanistan, and it has a direct correlation to where we are right now, geopolitically and economically, okay? And it also sheds light on why Europe is making a mad dash for Africa and why we see the conflict between Russia and Ukraine and the United States and NATO, okay? And with China. So as we go along, you give me time, I'm going to play a few clips and we're going to discuss the economic. Rashid is texting me. He said, "Maybe let me see now. Say something right now."
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you very well. How's it going, Rashid? Yes. Yes.
All right. They had while I was online, the screen had to refresh it and threw my mic off. But that's par for the course.
Yeah. Well,
you know, I find listening at most.
There's still a lag time between you and I.
They don't have problems like we have.
Yeah, there's still a lag time. They're still messing with that, but I have two emails from StreamYard that I have to get to later on, but I'll do it off the air because they contacted me back, and I also have something from YouTube because I complained and I did let them know that we are not happy with the way that they do the show. So I'll read those, and once I read them, I'll let you know what the deal is. But I want to go to some news clips real quick. And as we walk down this road of geopolitics and war, it's also going to be interconnected with the economics. And then you'll see the desperation of the Western world and the empire. Okay. And the first clip before anything, let me put any clips. I just want to put this up because I know how these people work at YouTube. The copyright infringement, even though by law you're able to use certain clips, as news and educational purposes, without having to get permission of the owners or whatever. But we're going to put this disclaimer up for about 5 or 6 seconds or whatever, 10 seconds or whatever. So be patient. Now, I'm going to play to you a clip that was done about, I think in 2021, if I'm not mistaken. Around 2021, I think I'm right about this. And this clip is Eric Prince, you know, the war criminal Eric Prince, who runs Blackwater, which was rebranded another name. It's amazing how Fox News continues to allow these war criminals to get shows or to get on shows, right? Like Ollie North and all of these people. It's amazing because a lot of people don't realize that he was a war criminal. He was considered a traitor to U.S. interests, Ollie North, and he wound up getting a show on Fox News at one time, right? But I'm talking about the hypocrisy is unreal on both sides of the aisle. And the people buy it hook, line, and sinker. But you know, we're here to straighten out this crooked road. So I want to play a clip here, and I want you to be real patient with me on this stuff because sometimes they'll play it and sometimes they won't. So check this out. This is Eric Prince. This is about 4 minutes and 43 seconds, and he's talking about America's pullout from Afghanistan. This is going to talk about the dollar and the economics of what's going on, okay? And then we're gonna move down the line and go to some other stuff. I want you to just be patient with me, okay? And listen to this clip right here. Right here. That's it.
Just before the break, you heard the founder of Blackwater, Eric Prince. Remember the time that his men rescued Joe Biden and John Kerry from Taliban-controlled Afghanistan. But the conversation was much deeper than that. For a brand new episode of Tucker Carlson Today, Prince joined us on set and gave us perspective on what is happening in Afghanistan now, why it happened, and what it tells us about the leadership of this country. Here's part of the conversation. What effects does this have since, I mean, you've worked in a lot of different countries and likely still are. What effect is this going to have on the rest of the world? I mean, there are pretty clear lessons from this, are there not?
I think much more than the Democrats ever complaining about Trump damaging NATO. This will destroy what's left of NATO because the U.S. has been so unilateral and so clueless that, I mean, for the President of the United States to be rebuked in the House of Parliament, that's the first time it's ever happened. So we have shattered the confidence of our European allies and every other ally around the world that America depends, whether you're a CIA agent trying to recruit somebody to work for you, or whether you're a country that wants you, that America wants you to compete with, you know, to side with us versus something that the Chinese want. It will definitely figure into people's thinking how quickly America abandoned its friends in Afghanistan and left in such a horribly chaotic and clumsy manner. And so there are going to be permutations in all sides that we haven't even thought of yet that come from this. Because, look, the dollar is the world's reserve currency.
Correct.
Why? Because it's underpinned by the notion of U.S. military strength. And what we're seeing unfold in Afghanistan over the last 20 years and over the last few weeks and next 2 weeks really does not show well. I'd called, 3 years ago, let's prevent the helicopter off the rooftop moment in Saigon. And that's exactly what we got.
So you mentioned our status as the holder of the world's reserve currency. So that is central to our economy as we...
Central to our economy because we deficit spend and we can keep doing that because we can just print more and more dollars. When people don't regard the United States as the sole, as the Pax Americana goes away,
right,
and they don't have the confidence of the dollar, that has massive trickle-down implications to our economy and to our way of life.
No reserve currency, collapse of American economy, total reset in our standard of living, completely different country.
Suddenly we have to live within our means.
Yeah, right. So we're not capable of doing that.
The abolition of the welfare state. I mean, massive, massive changes. Far greater convulsions than the Great Depression or any other civil unrest we've had in America.
So I guess the bigger point you're making is that when the country in control of the world reveals itself as weak, the world becomes much more volatile.
When it reveals that it's defeated by people using 70-year-old weapons that are living in a mindset of the 6th century, that maybe that U.S. military is not quite as capable as they espouse themselves to be. Maybe as the cosplay people describe itself to be. Total informational awareness. I don't care how much surveillance you have. What does it do to the reality of the people on the ground?
You just heard Lloyd Austin, the former defense contractor now running the Department of Defense, that the real threat, he would like to remind all of us, is white supremacy in the United States. It sounds like maybe there's a shift, having been defeated by the Taliban, to the real enemy here at home. Do you worry about that?
Well, I find it amazing how worried everyone in America is about COVID, that the Taliban managed to conquer the entire country without wearing masks. And COVID didn't seem to slow them down too much. So again, I think let's worry about the big threats. And yes, COVID can be taken seriously, but we don't need to shut down the economy. The American economy, the machine, people have to get back to work and back to school and to keep on living.
Eric Prince, one of the most knowledgeable people in the world on the subject of Afghanistan. That full conversation is on foxnation.com. Tucker Carlson today.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
Okay, we're back. So now, you hear what he said? There were a lot of things that he said in there that needs to be unpacked. He talked about the collapse of American power. He talked about how he was telling the people not to have a Saigon moment, you know, with the helicopters going off the roof and the U.S. and hurrying up to get out of the way as the rightful owners of the country of Vietnam or whatever took the country. And the same thing followed in Afghanistan. And he says that the world, if the world moves, and I'm paraphrasing, as the world moves away from that world reserve currency thing, then America would have to live within our means, you know, and having the world reserve currency gives America many benefits, right? And he says, because it's backed up, listen to what he says, it's very important that you pay close attention to what people say. And hear them when they say it. Don't hear them for what you want them to say. Hear them for what they are saying and trying to convey to you. Okay? He says that the United States dollar is backed up, not by gold, not by manufacturing, not by resources, not by silver, not by a brilliant mind. Is backed up with the threat of the use of U.S. military force. You understand? So in essence, what he's saying is the way America has ruled the world and has forced other nations to accept the dollar as the world reserve currency is under threat that if you don't accept it, we're going to kill you. We're going to blow you to smithereens because we get privilege from you using our currency, because we can manipulate your economy. We can export inflation to you. We can sanction you. We can monitor the transactions where we know where every dollar is going. So we know where you're putting your money at and how you're funding your military and you're doing this. And that means that I'm a universal snooper. And I can use this politically, economically, and militarily as an advantage to me. Okay? And so we're going to go to some definitions. I'm going to look to, well, this side right here because I'm looking at my other computer. And I put some stuff up in there. He talks about the era of Pax Americana coming to an end. Pax Americana. Remember what we just said about the world reserve currency, was backed up by the dollar, and how what the privileges are that come with having the world reserve currency, and how you become number one in the world because you have levels of power that no other nation has. Right? There's no equal playing field when you have the world reserve currency. You are far and beyond ahead of everybody else because you can do things with your currency that no one else can do. And others have to accept it. All right. So, according to Google, it says Pax America is a term that refers to international peace, quote unquote. Listen to me good, quote unquote, that is overseen by America. So now when we understand, it goes further than that. It says It's a term that was widely used after World War II when the United States overcame Nazi forces. The term has also been used in reference to the UK, and that case is Pax Britannica. But listen, there's something very important in that. I'm going to read it again, the first part of it, and then I'm going to tell you how they changed ever so slightly the name, but it bears the same meaning, okay? Pax Americana is a term that refers to, quote unquote, and they have it like this, quote unquote, you can Google this, I'm not making this up, quote unquote, international peace that is overseen by America. Now, how does that relate to today? What did NATO say? What did Britain say? What did France say? What did the European Union say? What did America say? They see China and Russia as the greatest threats to the rules-based order, quote unquote, their international order of peace. Peace, what does America always say? That America must lead, right? Not that anybody else should lead, but America must lead the new world order, or must lead the world order. That's Pax Americana repackaged. That's what that is. And he was dropping hints to you, telling you this. But he was also telling you that now nations see America as a hollow empire because they were defeated by people in caves in the sand, fighting them with 70-year-old weapons provided by the Soviet Union. So now we got that understanding, all right? We have that. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to something that is very important because they repackage and rebrand these things so that you don't understand. And they can use your ignorance for their benefit. Okay? On this show, you get the real. So we go into the definitions of things. Because without definition, you really don't get the gist of what somebody's saying. I could be talking to Rashid, and I could be talking to you, Homer May, that you understand our comments. Or stutter step here, he can understand it. Talking, we can talk to each other while talking to you, but you won't get what we got. That's what that's how they maintain their rule. Okay, Rashid, I'm gonna try to bring you in just a second. He was disconnected and he came back in, and he was disconnected again and he came back in, and we'll try to bring him back up in just a second. I want to play this clip, and it's very imperative that you listen to this clip because this clip was over a year ago. Okay, I held it back for a year because I wanted to see the shape up in the makings of the geopolitical landscape, and I wanted to see the economics and how bad they would deteriorate, and what other things that they would hide from the masses. So we're going to play this clip, and I think I'm play the disclaimer one more time because I don't want YouTube's problem. So let me put this disclaimer up real quick. Now, before I play this clip, let me preface this clip with something that's real. Is global changing real? Global warming real? Yeah, but not in the way that they teach you. The reason global warming is real is because, as I continue to tell you, this is not just a change up of a government or the change up of a hemispheric or regional rule. This is not even a change up of a global order. What's taking place is universal. All scriptures warn you of this, of a universal change that would come, and it would be underway. They don't want you to understand this, so they put it in symbolic language to you. So they make you think that there's a threat from this and a threat from that. If you are rooted in God, right? And God is the creator of all things. And you have accepted him as your protector. What did the book tell you? That no weapon formed against you shall prosper. I make my way with the Lord. So I'm not worried about the stuff that they're talking about. All right? But I want you to understand something, and I'm going to go back in the chat while this is playing. Max Kaiser talks about some symbolism and how they're using certain terms to reappropriate money that they've stolen from the masses to governments and organizations and businesses that are run by the elite. Okay? Okay? To try to save the rules-based order, or Pax Americana, or Pax Britannica. Okay? It's very important. So I want you to pay close attention. This is 4 minutes and more further 36 seconds. Okay.
Hi, I'm Max Kaiser. This is the Kaiser Report. Well, there's an Overton window somewhere, and we're going to throw the dollar out of it. How about that, Stacey?
Yes, well, you know, here on Kaiser Report, we've basically been covering the story for over a decade of the Overton window shifting, first in terms of how much deficit was allowed. Back after the 2008-2009 financial crisis, we were shocked to see when the deficit first hit $1 trillion. Remember that? The first ever $1 trillion deficit. Now it's like $3 trillion. And, you know, the shifting of what is accepted within the population and policy. So we're now allowed to have $3 trillion deficits because the Overton window shifted to allow for these sort of ideas to happen. So here we have something that happened up at COP26 in the past week, and that was Janet Yellen, our Treasury Secretary of the United States. She, of course, had been previously the chairwoman of the Federal Reserve. She said, Janet Yellen admits the net zero grand reset price tag will be $150 trillion, which was how Zero Hedge tweeted about it. They covered it. The exact quote Janet Yellen said was, quote, "It's a global transition for which we have an estimated price tag. Some have put the global figure between 100 and 150 trillion over the next 3 decades." Zero Hedge then, a few days later, Max, they quoted, they have a piece from Eric Peters, who is a CIO of One River Asset Management. He's a hedge fund manager. So hedge fund CIO, once you say $150 trillion a few times, it honestly doesn't seem so big. So she had first said, her statement said 100 to 150 trillion. Her following paragraph, this is how you shift the Overton window. "These programs are exciting," she said, "but as big as the public sector effort is across all our countries, the $100 trillion plus price tag to address climate change globally is far bigger. And you see the cost already appeared rather smaller." So first she said 100 and 150 trillion, then the next sentence, the next paragraph, she shifted to 100 trillion plus. So this is how you train the Overton window. This is how you shift it to where you want it to go.
Right. Well, I mean, the numbers make sense because remember, 5 or 6 years ago, there was a G20 meeting where it was speculated that the cost of rolling up all the central bank bad debt to the IMF would be about 100 trillion. And the leader of Russia at the time was making that statement publicly. And they were talking about the need for a $100 trillion credit facility. Okay, let me continue. So because people now know that central bank money printing is causing inflation, they needed to come up with a narrative to get people more scared. So they're just saying, this isn't a bailout, this is about climate change. But the numbers are the same. We always knew that they needed 100, 150 trillion to bail out the central banks. They're calling it climate change. Okay, we call it the Overton window, or you can call it marketing. You know, this is just marketing.
So yeah, that $100 trillion number we did discuss here on Kai's report. It was announced, of course, at the same place where the Great Reset is, and that is at the Davos Forum in 2011. It was by Davos man. It wasn't by the Russian leader, but it was Davos man, and we covered it. You could just Google it, $100 trillion credit facility needed to bail out the globe. And of course, we got there pretty fast, but that's where they floated the idea. That's where they shifted the Overton window, is that if you give the bankers $100 trillion, they'll bail out and rescue the system, and your house prices will go up again. Everything will go up in price again.
Right. So the numbers add up. It's $100 trillion. We know that that's what they needed to bail out the central banks who bailed out Wall Street and the banks in 2008. They need another bailout in 2021. It's about $100 trillion, $150 trillion they need in bailout money. They need all the central banks to print all this money. They need to increase inflation rapidly, but they can't call it that because people are now starving to death. So they're going to call it climate change, and we're worried about climate change. But that's nothing to do with it. It's about just another bailout for banks again.
You see, this is what they're doing to you. They are frightening you into doing things and accepting things that is to your detriment. You understand? And the elite know this. But if they can push it and if they can control the platforms, you can't say this and you can't do that. And you have to be in lock and step with the governments or the platforms vision of things, or else you get suspended or erased. This is a way of mind control. This is a way to steer the people down the path that you want them to go. And if you can steer them down the path that you want them to go, then you can sell them things that they would normally not buy, and you can force them into taking action on things that is to their detriment. So what they're doing is mind control. And this is why they are so heavily dependent on the YouTube and the Instagram and the other platforms and the media, because they are inundating your weak mind to what's supposed to be important to you. Some of us, we go for the superficial and the material. Some of us, we want to be seen as classy and dressed. Some of us, we want to be accepted into the political realm. Some of us, we want to have as many friends as we want. When reality, all of that is fleeting. All of that. If you're not grounded to the Lord of the worlds, all of that is fleeting. And they know it. So in essence, these governments are demonic. And they are trying to make you just as much of a demon as they are. So they feed you with corruption and arrogance and make you proud over nothing, right? This is what it is. You get preoccupied with things that don't matter. Football, baseball, sports. Who's the finest chick on Instagram? All of this stuff, you get swept away with that. Or you want to be a part of certain groups that you think that are beneficial, that you can benefit from. And these groups will lead you down a road to your destruction and your detriment. Man, I'm telling you, it is something else. I'm gonna bring Rashid back in, and I'm gonna let him comment on this, and then I need to go quickly into the next clip because we're gonna try to go step by step, because I want you to see how all of this stuff is interconnected. Okay, all right. Let me try to give you a word. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. They keep throwing me off. Since I didn't talk to you, I done got kicked off at least 5 times.
Yeah.
Look up other shows.
Speak on this.
And they get it. They're starting to get this interrupted internet, but it's not as clear. Like every third they don't want us to say anything. But as you were saying about the going on, they to keep your mind tuned in on fish. It's like that old book, 1984,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
talk about USSR, they
You're choppy. You're choppy. You're choppy.
exactly pushing the company line. They want silence. They silenced it.
They're chopping him up.
That's what's going on. It's
You're chopping up.
everyone. So you media, they gonna play.
You are chopping up. Everything,
Just
most
like
everything
you
that you said was chopped up. They're messing with your sound. Yeah. So go slow. Say what you're saying.
Not on my
Go
end.
slow.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. See, you're clear now. But every time you get ready to talk on something that's pertinent and relevant to the situation, they chop you up.
Oh, okay, that's what's going on, brother. Exactly what's happening. They're silent and everybody.
Yeah.
It's like I said. It's like the.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I hate they're messing with the brother's voice microphone. I really hate that because he has a lot of pertinent things to say, especially on this matter. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to the clips, and I want to because I want.
Can you understand me now?
Yeah, I hear you very clear now. I hear you very clear. They must have frozen. They're messing with him. But anyway, the show go on, and he'll go out of the studio and he'll come back in, or they'll disconnect and he'll come back in, and we'll try this all over again. Let's go to something real quick. I want to play another clip about what's going on. So pay close attention.
Nothing to do with it. It's about just another bailout.
Can you
for banks.
hear me?
Again.
Exactly. And shifting that Overton window, the guy, this CIO of a hedge fund, goes on to say, that's how the Overton window works, because 100 trillion plus somehow feels quite a bit less than 150 trillion. And once you say 150 trillion dollars a few times, it honestly doesn't seem so big. After all, when you think about it, the cost is spread over about 3 decades, which leaves it just 5 trillion per year. And that number used to feel utterly out of reach until 2009, when the global financial crisis sparked the first $3 trillion US federal government budget. So there's the shifting Overton window, and we'll have to get up to a quadrillion, by the way, because that's the size of the derivatives bubble. And that's where we have to go. So they're shifting us up there. By the time we get there, of course, what's the number after quadrillion? That's where bankers will be.
Yeah, of course, because the globe's in a hyperinflationary collapse against Bitcoin, and that applies to all fiat money, including the dollar. And they need to go exponential, continue to be exponential in the money printing. And the story to me is that they're hiding behind the climate change. When climate change became incredibly beyond the reach of fixing, they felt comfortable talking about it in terms of Fed policy. Just like the white population in America feels comfortable with talking about Black Lives Matter now because it's beyond the point of fixing. They're concerned about the Native American Indians because it's beyond the point of fixing. They're concerned about climate change because it's beyond the point of fixing. I mean, this is a standard trope of charlatans and crooks. And they just need another $100 trillion because they're drug-addled, desperate disgusting people, and they need for middle-class taxpayers to pony it up. So they're going to scare everybody beyond the point where it can be fixed. We're beyond the point of fixing climate change because of the money printing. So they don't want to say, we're printing money and you're dead. They want to say, give us more money. It's so shameless. It's shocking.
So these charlatans, these crooks, again, you see, this is what's going on in the economy. As a matter of fact, I want to go to something. Let me go to something real quick. There we go, right here. I want to go to something real quick. You guys, bear with me. The Economic Collapse blog. Okay, we're going to go to there because they do a lot of information. They give a lot of information on the economic situation in the world. So the latest article, which came out yesterday, is called "Trillions Upon Trillions of Dollars of Wealth is Being Wiped Out as the quote unquote everything collapse accelerates." And in this, let's go to it right here. So you bear with us, everyone who's watching the show, bear with us. It says, and this is by Michael Schneider, it says, "Have you checked on the health of your investments lately? If not, you may be surprised to find out where things currently stand. As the everything collapse, quote unquote, accelerates, trillions of dollars of wealth is being wiped out. Many that thought that they were financially set for the rest of their lives are now in panic mode as asset values rapidly crumble. Just look at what happened to Sam Bankman-Fried. He was worth $16 billion coming into this month, and now the value of his assets have been reduced to zero." Stop right there. I gotta say this. There was a report last night that says the Elon Musk lost $100 billion in his wealth in 24 hours. 24 hours. So let's go a little further. And this was last night. So he goes further and says, when you factor in all the money that he owes to creditors, it is likely that his net worth is actually less than zero. The significance of this. Coming into 2 days ago, he was worth $16 billion, this guy. And today, within 48 hours, he is negative net worth. Isn't that something? So I'm gonna go, Rashid, you froze on the screen. You were trying to say something, but you froze on the screen. I'm messing with it. Well, we'll go further. And it says, this is how fast it can happen. Overall, the cryptocurrency industry has lost more than, oh, you there? Before I read further, go say what you have to say, and then I'll finish reading this. They're messing with this. They are really messing
Does
with
this mean that Elon Musk is going to be pushing a shopping cart outside?
Seems like
if he's less than zero.
No, not Elon Musk. Not Elon Musk. Elon Musk lost $100 billion in his assets. This guy name is Sam Bankman-Fried.
All of his money is
gone.
It's a facade.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
This money that's going around, all of it is. And we people is not going down the way it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna read a little bit more of the article, so everybody bear with us, okay? And I know they're messing with Rashid's volume and his mic and everything, and even freezing him and freeze frames and stuff like that. But we got to overlook that stuff. We got to continue to play through the pain, because right now you're on a championship team, and we're approaching the end zone, right? And we're about to win the spiritual, the economic, the political, and the geopolitical Super Bowl. So you don't want to get traded while we're on the field and we're about to go into the end zone and cap this thing off and win with truth, right? You want the truth. you want to get your ring of truth too. So just stay with us. And it says, that is how fast it can happen. Overall, the cryptocurrency industry has lost more than $1.4 trillion in value this year. The cryptocurrency market has lost more than $1.4 trillion in value this year as the industry has been plagued with problems from failed projects to a liquidity crunch exacerbated by the fall of FTX, once one of the world's largest exchanges. Now I'm going to bring some up on FTX that's not in here. And this is what has a lot of people up in arms. The FTX. This cryptocurrency forum or format or whatever you want to have has direct ties to Joseph Biden, your president, and Ukraine. And there has been speculations and talks that they were using that crypto platform to money launder and whitewash gangster money. So the downfall and collapse of it didn't come as no surprise. But the money that they were supposedly given to Ukraine was being whitewashed and turned into crypto and given to Ukraine, and some of it was given, portions of it was given back to the United States and congressmen and women and Joe Biden's team with the and now it has suffered a huge meltdown and collapse. Okay, nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about that, but that is what occurred. Okay, so now let's go further. Yes, FTX wasn't the first domino to fall, and it certainly won't be the last. In fact, now we are being warned that Genesis may need to file for bankruptcy. Digital asset broker Genesis is struggling to raise fresh cash for its lending unit and is warning potential investors that it may need to file for bankruptcy if its efforts fail, according to people with knowledge of the matter. Rashid, I have to mute you because whatever you're listening to on your phone is echoing back on this end. So let me mute you. And it goes further and it says, ouch. If Genesis fails, that is going to hurt. So why is Genesis in so much trouble? Well, it turns out that Genesis had $175 million locked in an FTX trading account. You see that? So this was money laundering on the part of the governments of Ukraine, the EU, and the United States. You understand? Oh man, I'm telling you, this is crazy here. So again, it says Genesis has spent the past several days seeking at least $1 billion in fresh capital, said the people who asked not to be identified because discussions are private. That includes talks over a potential investment from crypto exchange Binance, they said, but funding so far has failed to materialize. The rush for funding was precipitated by a liquidity crunch at the lender after the sudden collapse of FTX, one of the world's largest crypto exchanges. Genesis halted redemptions, meaning that whatever they owed you, you couldn't get. They halted it. Hey, hold up. You can't get this. You can't redeem your your so-called assets for money. You can't do that. It says Genesis halted redemptions, revealing on November 10th that it had $175 million locked in an FTX trading account. Needless to say, that $175 million is now gone and is not okay. So what we're looking at is a money laundering, money washing that the governments of Ukraine, the United States, and the EU are using for kickbacks, quote unquote kickbacks, that are not visible to the average person. And the money laundering scheme is collapsing, and you see the dominoes collapsing, right? This is what you're watching in real time. They're not telling you this, but this is what you're watching in real time. It's amazing, right? Oh, I'm telling you, you're not getting this from anyone else. So we're giving you the truth of the matter. So let's go a little further, okay? All right, let's go a little further. So I want to go to, let's see. Here we are. Right here. I want to go to something that was on the show before. I'm going to play this short from Fox News. I'm going to play, a matter of fact, I'm going to play a couple of them from Fox News. But with Peter Schiff, to refresh your memory of what he said about what's coming, okay? So pay close attention to this.
Well, all of last year, as the government printed trillions of new dollars, our Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, who used to run the Fed and is therefore responsible for inflation, assured us, no, this is not going to cause inflation. Watch.
We've had several months of high inflation that most economists, including me, believe will be transitory. I personally believe that this represents transitory factors.
Are higher prices here to stay?
I believe it's transitory, but I don't mean to suggest that these pressures will disappear in the next month or two. It is important that we monitor it carefully, but I believe fundamentally, that this is something that will settle down.
Transitory.
Transitory.
Takes a lot of brass for Janet Yellen to describe herself as an economist. Not an economist. She's a ridiculous figure who does not get the credit she deserves for screwing up in a very serious way the U.S. economy. Well, this week, finally, in the face of overwhelming evidence, she had to admit she was wrong. You can't deny it anymore. The economy's in serious trouble. The head of J.P. Morgan Chase, that would be Jamie Dimon, just told investors that an economic hurricane is on the way. Watch this.
I said there's storm clouds, they're big storm clouds, it's a hurricane. Right now it's kind of sunny, things are doing fine. Everyone thinks the Fed can handle this. That hurricane is right out there down the road coming our way.
Peter Schiff is an actual economist of Euro Pacific Capital. He joins us tonight. Peter, thanks so much for coming on. Jamie Dimon is a pretty understated guy most of the time. Hurricane, do you agree with that?
Well, I do, except I think it's going to be a Category 5 hurricane, so I think he's sugarcoating it a bit.
Oh. And what, if you were in charge, if you were Janet Yellen, you were the Treasury Secretary, what would you do to avert it or lessen its effects right now?
Well, unfortunately, there's no way to avert it. I mean, but what we have to do is deal with it in a responsible way, something that Janet Yellen has never been a part of. She's, complaining about inflation, but she helped create the inflation. When she was chair of the Federal Reserve, she kept interest rates at zero for half of her term. And then when she finally started to raise them, it took her 2 years to get to 1.25. And then if you go back to her tenure as the president of the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, she was there during the housing bubble and the financial crisis, and at the peak of the housing bubble, she assured the nation in several speeches that there was no housing bubble, and then she went on to say even if there was a bubble, if she was wrong and it popped, it would do no damage to the U.S. economy. So she was incompetent at the Fed, and she's still incompetent as Secretary of the Treasury.
Well, yeah. I mean, and that was demonstrable. This was the most shocking, from my perspective, the most shocking appointment that Joe Biden made. How in the world could he have appointed Janet Yellen, of all people on planet Earth, Treasury Secretary? How did that happen?
Well, it's all politics. But, had he not appointed her, he might have appointed somebody equally bad. I mean, there's so many bad people to choose from because they pick these people for political reasons. It's not because they actually know anything about the economy. Biden wants somebody who's going to validate his political agenda, even if that political agenda is detrimental to the economic health of the United States.
That is all. I wish I could say that's not true, but it's so clearly true. Peter Schiff, I appreciate your perspective. Thank you very much.
So I also want to highlight something here by our good brother Reef Omar. I gotta highlight this across here. those who were running FTX were trying to sell to Binance, who looked at their books and said, no, thank you. And that is exactly what took place. See, it's a Ponzi scheme, and you got to understand that the Biden administration is so deep in the corruption of Ukraine that it is unreal. It is unreal. And this is why he's so determined to give money and weapons to Ukraine, because he's locked in. He's so tied in. His administration is so tied in because they have a lot to lose in the investment over there. And they're throwing away people's lives for investment. That's Satan. That's satanic. That's the devil, right? So again, let's see. I'm reading. I'm engaging everyone in the comments also while I'm doing this, and I want to read something to you, some definitions to show you the seriousness of what is taking place, because a lot of us, we don't know the seriousness of this stuff. Yeah, it's absolutely right. He is right. Bozo the Clown would have been a better Treasury Secretary, and he is absolutely right. We're going to leave that right on the screen and let that marinate in your brains for a second. But let's go to something. In that clip, Yellen kept saying she said transitory. This stuff is transitory, right? She continued to use the word transitory, knowing that the average person, that's out of their vocabulary, so they really don't understand what that means. According to the dictionary, the word transitory means not permanent, right? It means temporary, transient, brief, short-lived, short-term. Now, it's amazing how at the beginning of the year, they started walking that transitory mess back, right? And you hear what Peter Schiff said, and you heard what Tucker Carlson said on Fox Business or Fox News when he addressed that matter. And Peter Schiff says, yeah, it's a hurricane, but I think it's a category 5. This is what he says, a category 5. And I want you to understand what this means. So I'm gonna give you definitions. Unlike any other show, I give you definitions. We give you definitions because we want you to understand exactly what it's saying, okay, so that you can prepare yourselves for what they see is coming. They're not going to tell you all this stuff, but we are. Don't worry about it. We're going to inform you. You can believe that. And we're not going to leave it to chance. Now, this economic hurricane, according to the dictionary, an economic hurricane means something, the value of money erodes as persistently high inflation increases the cost of living. So what he is talking about when he said an economic hurricane, is talking about a spike in inflation, a loss in value of your currency. So what they're doing, when most people don't understand that inflation is a tax. Inflation is a tax. It erodes your purchasing power. It is a secret tax. So think about it. Let's go pre-disease era. You know what I'm talking about. That virus, pre-virus era. You know what I'm talking about. When you could go to the store and you could get a 6-pack of let's just think, some noodles, some ramen noodles, and you can get a 6-pack for $1, right? Now, post-virus news, you go and you get a 5-pack for $1.50. Do you see the secret tax that's in there? So it takes $1.50 when it used to take $1, and you're getting one less than what you used to. So you're getting taxed twice. Okay? Inflation. And Mr. Schiff says that he believes that it is a category 5. Well, let's see what that means. Okay? All right, here we are. in a Category 5 hurricane, it says, are the most devastating, listen to me good. Category 5 hurricanes are the most devastating hurricanes with sustained winds, not transitory. Listen to me good. Not transitory winds, but sustained winds of at least 157 miles per hour, right? It says, and this is something that we got to relate to our economics and our well-being and our family security. It says a high percentage of framed homes will be destroyed with total roof failure and wall collapse. Fallen trees and power poles will isolate residential areas. So we can relate that to the markets crashing. We can relate that to bank bailouts. We can relate that to you not being able to get what's left of your funds out of the bank. We can relate that to wealth destruction. Okay? That's what we're looking at. Peter Schiff just said it. Yeah, it's a economic hurricane, but what I see is and this man is an investor and he's a market guru. He said, but what I see coming is a Category 5. Okay? That's amazing, isn't it? They don't talk to you about this stuff here. They're not. Go to these other alternative shows, see if they're talking to you about this and about the seriousness of the time and what is going on, what is actually happening. You know, they touch on a lot of things, but they don't touch deep enough to empower you, to prepare yourself for what is next. Okay? Now let's go a little further. I see Rashid back. I see Rashid back in the booth. I'll bring him back in just a second. Let me try to pull up another clip so we can go from here. Let's see. So we've gotten that, and the reason you see me doing this, looking close to it, is because the screen is going in and out. This is how they're messing with the show. So I'm trying to get a good look. I'm brightening the screen over here, and I'm trying to get a good look because it's flashing like this, and I don't know why it's doing that. So just bear with me, okay? And no, these are not glasses. I see perfect. These are just glasses I choose to wear. So let's see. Here we are. Here we are. That's where we go, right here. So now, all of this has a direct bearing on the United States military posture. Okay, all of this, her posture. Remember that she gets benefits and privileges that no other nation in the world gets because she has the world reserve currency. Now, bear this in mind, as you heard. What is his name? The guy that I played from RT. What is his name? I'm looking at him and still can't even remember his name, and I'm used to call it Kaiser, Max Kaiser, right? Bear in mind, Max Kaiser talked about this stuff here about the privileges that of having a world reserve currency, and we know that America manipulates her currency to cause inflation, to overthrow governments, to destabilize regions, all of this stuff. And what she's waking up to is the fact that nations are now doing trade outside the dollar. And this is a no-no because she deficit spends. Do you understand what that means? I'm asking you, do you understand what that means? Let's see if we can pull something up. Let's see, because I'm pretty sure I had something to this. Let's see. Right here on the screen. Yes. Look. Okay. Deficit spending, which is the privilege of having a world reserve currency. So it means that you can spend without having the funds or the assets to back up your spending. But on here it says deficit spending, government spending in excess of revenue of funds raised by borrowing rather than from taxation. So if she is constantly in a mode of deficit spending, she's not only borrowing from future generations, she's borrowing from nations around the world, right? And now if these nations around the world are redirecting their resources, oil, gas, commodities towards each other. And they're entering into currency swap agreements, small trade agreements. And all of this is excluding the dollar, the euro, and the pound. What do you think that means? That means that America has to now bring to bear the one thing that backs her dollar. And what did we learn when we first started the show? What backs the US dollar? What did Eric Prince, the CEO of Blackwater Mercenary Group, say? It is American military might. Thus, you see her up in the tensions with China, up in the tensions with Russia, up in the tensions with Iran, just up in the tensions all around the globe. She wants chaos. What is the Mossad and the CIA logo? Through chaos, we shall rule, or something like that. So they're up in the amount of chaos that the world is seeing. There's political instability. There's financial instability, right? There's geopolitical instability. They're doing that, right? Why are they doing it? They're doing it because they see the end of dollar dominance. Dollar dominance. So look, we're going to go here and we're going to play this, because America, she's in a position now that desperation has seeped in all corners of the government, because they're now being forced to awaken to a reality that they thought that they could continue to kick down the road. They're in a reality now where the dollar is being challenged. The United States military is being challenged. Because she can only push so far. Now she has not one equal in military might, but she has two military peers. And she has a regional rival that in that region is just as powerful as she is. So she's dealing with a new reality. The Western world has not been able to process that, because they have been able to expand globally for centuries and rob resources and labor and brain power. And now the chickens are coming home to roost. And now they are resorting to the one thing that they have left. That is economic and military blackmail. Either you continue to use the dollar, or we're going to make everything blow up and everybody else suffer. The mind of a madman, right? So I want you to pay close attention to this, just so that you can see where we stand economically, okay? And we're going to play. These are short clips that I'm about to play, but we got to get these in before we close the show out. And then I'm going to try to bring Rashid back in at the top of the clips before we go, so that he can add his thing in, and then we can close out the show. But pay close attention to this.
Thoughts on 2023? We've been talking about the potential for a rail strike this morning. No doubt that pushes inflation higher.
Oh, certainly. So first of all, before we get to the rail strike, though, remember that all this spending is going to need to be financed. And we've seen credit card debt skyrocket, and certainly not keeping pace with wage inflation at all, and real income at all. And so therefore, there is going to be a reckoning of this credit card debt at some point. And I think it'll start to stare people straight when losing jobs becomes a reality. Although we've started to see a bunch of cuts, it's mostly been around technology companies. I think we'll see them in earnest around all industries going into 2023. With respect to the rail strike, certainly this country does nothing except at times of emergency. We need to see sirens. We need to hear sirens blaring, and we need to see the red lights flashing. And I don't think we'll have a strike, although we're at the precipice of absolute disaster based on where we are right now.
So you see what he's saying? America stands on the precipice of disaster. All of these black swans are now in play. You have the nurses talking about striking. You have teachers unions talking about striking. You have the truckers are talking about striking. You have the railway workers now rejecting a agreement with their upper level people and now they're talking about going on strikes. All of this is in the midst of America waging economic war on China, Russia, Iran, and nations around the globe. All of this is while America continues to deficit spend. All of this is going on when bank after bank continues to fold, business after business continue to fold, regardless of the finesse numbers about unemployment. Unemployment continues to take its toll and build. And then you see civil discord and unrest and a great cultural and national divide that is exploding. Do you not see that this is the recipe for the collapse of the greatest pillar of Western domination? America. Because if America goes, so too goes the Western world, because she is that weight-bearing load. Whenever the UK gets in trouble, whenever France gets in trouble in their colonies, whenever they go up against a power that is their peer, whenever they need financial help or military help, America to the rescue. But with this weight-bearing pillar of the Western world crumbling, and we see more and more economic and political fissures starting to come through the pylons, it's making the house unstable, the Western house unstable, and sooner or later, it collapses due to the weight of its own arrogance. That's what we're seeing here. So I'm gonna play this next clip, and then I'm gonna bring Rashid in. Just like I said, I gotta play a clip, and I got a few more clips that I want to play for you because they are very vital to what we're talking about right now. Okay, so listen to this.
One of the nation's largest rail unions voting down a tentative contract brokered by the White House. Now, a looming nationwide strike on December 5th that could cripple the U.S. economy.
As the president has said from the beginning, a shutdown is unacceptable because of the harm it would inflict on jobs, families, farms, businesses.
The White House now preparing for the possibility of picket lines. Rail is critical to multiple facets of the economy: agriculture, manufacturing, retail, and warehousing. Freight railroads are responsible for transporting 40% of the nation's long-haul cargo. Transportation would also be affected. Roughly half of all commuter rail systems rely at least in part on tracks owned by freight railroads, including nearly all of Amtrak's long-distance service. Altogether, a strike would cost the economy $2 billion a day in economic losses, according to the Association of American Railroads.
The biggest issue are the quality of life issues. A lot of the cutbacks that have taken place over the last 4 to 5 years by the railroads have cut us to the bone.
Workers say they need better paid leave and attendance policies before they can reach an agreement. Although 8 of the rail unions agreed to new contracts, if just one of those who didn't decides to strike, then they'll all join the picket line.
I hope that we can bring this to resolution without any impact. But like I said, this is an option under the Railway Labor Act.
A nationwide strike is expected next month unless a contract is ratified by each of the 11 rail unions. So far, 4 unions have ratified the agreement. Ike Ajachi, ABC News, Washington.
So there's a black swan, right? Everywhere you look, black swan, black swan, black swan, black swan, black swan. All of this is blowback. A lot of people get it misconstrued. They don't understand. This is blowback to America's domestic policies, her international policies, her policies of economics. All of it is blowback. Her misuse of her power. As thou hast done, so shall it be done unto thee. Right? Those are not empty and idle words. God doesn't tell you words that are idle. He doesn't tell you anything that's empty. When he tells you something, you can go to the bank on it. And whether the bank people are willing to cash the check, you don't even have to worry about it. Just hand them the thing and it will be cashed. And we're watching that. For so long, the Western world specifically and especially America and Great Britain thought that they were the exception to the rule of law. They thought that they were the exception to the very base of the laying of the foundation of the universe. You know, justice, as thou hast done, so shall it be done unto thee, what they call karma or judgment, right? They thought that they could beat the laws of science and physics, because these laws of science and physics tells us that any reaction, right, will be met with an equal or greater reaction. And America and Britain and the Western world thought that that did not apply to them. And now they're seeing that they had built up so much stuff, and now it's all coming at them at once. And it's too hard for them to tackle. It's too hard for them to tackle. And that's why in the Bible it says, in the day of thy downfall, none will come to thy aid. Because even if everybody put their economies on the line for America, for Great Britain, it would not be enough to service the debt. Even if they all decided to lay their lives on the altar of life to help the American empire, their economies are but a small screw in the cog of the debt system that is grinding America and the Western world to a halt. Let me see if we can get Rashid in here before I go to another clip. And it's very imperative that we listen to these next two clips, okay? So let me see if I can get him in here real quick. Rashid, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
All right. All right. Could you come in? I know I'm gonna let you comment on what I've been saying and
Yes.
the clips that I've been playing, and make sure you go a little slow. If you see me do this, they're messing with your mic.
Okay. Remember, with this rail strike coming up, all of it, from all of the ships that come in, without the rail, you cannot have does not get supplied for its goods. As 93% of Walmart's goods, 93
They're messing with your volume. I mean, everything is like they're just chopping it up. I can't make heads or tails of most of what you're saying. They're just messing with it. And it's crazy. But try again. Say it again. Let's try this again and see if they'll let it through this time. Try it again. Well, evidently he's having problems on his end, but we got to keep going. And I just want you. I got to put something up on the screen. All right, I have to, because this is pertinent right here. It's very pertinent to what's going on. Listen to this part right here. I mean, look at this part right here. I got you, brother. I got you. Look at what Reef Omar had to say about what's going on here. They're messing with my microphone too now. All right, they're muting me off and on, and I'm trying to click on it, tell them, come on, you know. But that is expected. But let's go. Look what he put up here. America couldn't deficit spend on a gold standard. Hence the move in August 1971. And the printing press was fired up. See, it goes back. But even before that, Brother Omar, it went even before that. That was just a major part of it. But remember, the United States was steadily robbing its currency of gold and silver from the 60s. Because from 65 and 66, they had completely taken the silver contents out of the coinage of quarters and dimes and nickels and stuff. And then by 1970, they had completely robbed the silver dollar or the half dollar of the silver. It is when Charles de Gaulle, the former general and then prime minister of France, started watching America's financial moves. And he was like, man, they keep spending. They keep using a lot of money. And this is not matching their gold holdings. This is not matching their silver holdings. And so de Gaulle wanted to redeem France's holdings of U.S. debt. And Richard Nixon convened an emergency meeting. And then Richard Nixon and de Gaulle talked. And Richard Nixon told de Gaulle that the U.S. dollar was as good as gold. And de Gaulle said, well, then give me gold then. And Richard Nixon was forced to take the world off the gold and the silver standard. And from that point on, America has been steadily in decline. She's been steadily declining left and right, falling left and right. And we're seeing that left and right, left and right, left and right. Everything that she had in place to try to cushion her economy has been removed, like the Glass-Steagall Act and all these things. But I want you to listen to this. I want you to listen close to Scott Ritter. This is on my show right here. All right. I want you to listen to this. This is on this show with me and Rashid, and what Scott Ritter had to say about America fighting Russia and the situation that America is now facing. Pay close attention to
rights that you have as a human. And we've forgotten how to do that with Russians. We view them as somehow less than human. And some of the stuff you read on social media is just disgusting about how we treat the Russians, how we denigrate them. And I blame that on the elite, because the elite is the people who have the PhDs, they know better. It's not like they can say, well, we were deceived. No, you have the PhD. You went to university. You had the opportunity to study this, but you chose to play the game. You chose to play the game of, if I want to get promoted within the system, I have to become a Putin whisperer. You chose not to be intellectually honest, not to be a righteous person and learn the truth and head down the path of truth. Because the path of truth in the American system doesn't lead upward. It leads at best parallel. More often than not, it leads down. But that's the path a righteous person takes. The people that sell out are the people that buy into the lie. And with Russia, unfortunately, they buy into the lie. So yeah, do we believe we can beat Russia? I would tell you, there's no military professional that believes we can beat Russia. I mean, the people that know what I know that, again, like I said, if I'm going to fight Mike Tyson, I better start training like Mike Tyson. And we haven't been. I mean, we used to. I have to tell you right now, when I was in the Marine Corps, I'd get in a ring with anybody. But me and my Marines would get in a ring with anybody, and we'd win. We'd win. Why? Because I spent 220 days in the field training in realistic live fire conditions to fight the Russian enemy under, the real Russian enemy, how they really were arrayed. And we trained, and nothing comes easy. I mean, you can be a good boxer, then you take 6 months off. You ain't a good boxer anymore. You're fat. To be a good Marine, you got to train all the time. It never stops, never stops. Second you stop, you die. We used to do that. We don't do that anymore. We don't have that mindset. We don't have that money. We don't have that budget. So our military, first of all, we spent 20 years running around the Middle East, kicking down doors of civilian homes in Iraq and killing herders and farmers in Afghanistan. I know there's some bad guys out there that we killed too, but by and large, we weren't playing on the big stage. We were playing on the little stage, and we got beat. But the thing is, we forgot how to fight on the big stage, and today we don't know it. Now we're looking at what Russia's doing in Ukraine. We can't fight that war. We don't know how to fight that war. We only know how to go in and kick down doors in Iraq. We don't know how to put 300,000 men online with tanks and artillery in Ukraine like the Russians and Ukrainians are doing.
So do you think the reason America continues to provoke Russia is due to a psyche of exceptionalism and being inebriated off of the power and the influence that the U.S. empire used to have?
Well, it's not just that. Yes, I mean, we are in many ways living in the past, but there's a reality of it too. Let's put it this way. You know that thing we call the American dream that very few people have, a lot of people want to have, and some people will never have? It's based upon our nation consuming X amount of resources because it's expensive to have the American lifestyle. We live expensively. But when you take a look at the resources America has, It's X minus whatever number you want to give. Where do we get that number? From the world. And we can't get it at market prices because then we couldn't live the American dream. The American dream is about living with affordability. So we have to get things at less than market value. Now, how many people, when they go into business, say, I'm willing to sell my inventory at a loss? No one. No one. But we expect the world to sell their inventory to us at a loss. You have to sell it cheap. And if you're not willing to sell it cheap, then we will overthrow your government and replace it with a government that's willing to sell it cheap. We will manipulate your economy. We will sanction you. We will bully you. We will invade you. We will occupy you. We will kill you. That's the American way of interacting with the world. We aren't the friends of anybody. Nobody is our friend. Everybody is a mark. And we're the con man, running around, running the greatest con on earth. And when the con doesn't work, then we become the hitman.
You hear that? That was from this show. That was from the Red Pill Diaries and the Red Pill Journals. And when we were suspended, we had to do Red Pill channel. We conducted that interview with Scott, former UN former Marine officer, and this is what he was saying about the American military, the American government. This is how America lives her dream, by causing nightmares for everybody else. That's how you get the American dream. I'm going to go take what they have. I'm going to go strong on them. And don't you see that in the mind state of people here in America? And then America wants to talk to them about justice when she goes overseas and she does that. Someone, you work all week long, 2 weeks long to get a paycheck to pay your bills. You're working hard, and someone will come up to you and try to rob you. And if you don't give them what they demand of you, now they've been sitting their behinds on sitting down for 2 weeks, and they've been watching you, and they've been seeing that you're a hard worker, and that you have a nice family at home, and that you're doing this and you're doing that. So they follow you and look at your habits. And on payday, they follow you to the bank. You get your money from the bank. You go to pay your bills, and they come up to you. They don't care about the livelihood of your children, your wife, your family, or anything. They say, I want that. And if you don't give it to me, I'll kill you. And sometimes they'll kill you even if you do give it to them, right? That is what he was talking about with America. Her mindset, to live her lifestyle, she preys on others. That is as American as apple pie. Because you see it in urban America, you see it in suburban America, you see it across every spectrum of America. That mind state, that mindset, to take what others have, regardless of how hard they worked and how lazy you have been. I don't want it at a fair price. I don't want it. I want to take it because that will enrich my life and make me happy, regardless to what it does to you and the people who depend on you. That has been Britain's policy. That has been all of the colonial policies of colonial nations of Europe. And that is most definitely America's policy. And now, with her sanctioning oil and gas and doing all this other stuff, blowback is hitting home, and it is hitting hard. So I want you to look at the dire situation that the American economy is facing now because of these irrational, unstable, insane policies of her unhinged, ignorant, and insane politicians. I want you to listen to what's going on here.
Of course, we're also seeing the energy sector move higher as well today, oil rebounding from a 4-day slide. Let's talk about diesel for a moment here, because growing concerns over the diesel and heating oil shortage in the U.S. as we head into the winter months is really weighing on markets, certainly on investors' minds, with U.S. stockpiles at new lows and the price of fuel at record highs. So we want to bring in Chun-Tse Hsu, who joins us now from Houston with more. And Chun-Tse, I did not realize this until I read your story, but heating oil and diesel are the same thing. And this is something that people had been warning about for a while, this shortage, which is only going to intensify in the months ahead. Give us a sense of how bad it's going to be.
Yeah, right now diesel inventories are the lowest ever for this time of year in the U.S., and it's the worst on the East Coast, where we're most reliant on overseas imports. And what that means is that residents in New England are paying 80% more for heating oil than they did this time last year. And it's just as bad on the other side of the Atlantic, where Europe diesel supplies are going to get a hit when they pivot away from Russian fuels in a few months.
Talk to us a little bit about why. How did we get here? Why is this an issue right now?
Well, we saw a lot of refining capacity shut down in the U.S. and in Europe, and then when demand came back, we just don't have enough to feed that balance. And then when Russia invaded Ukraine, of course, that took a lot of diesel supply out of the market, and that's going to come from the U.S. Gulf Coast, and that tightens supplies globally and on the East Coast particularly.
And one thing as well that I learned from reading your story is that the U.S. is a net exporter of diesel, but last year we actually imported diesel from Russia. All of that is subject to change later on this year when there's some new sanctions that are going into effect.
Yes, the U.S. did rely on Russian fuel to heat a lot of homes in the East Coast when there's a cold snap last winter. And this year, of course, Russian fuel is banned, and the U.S. is going to rely a lot more on Europe to supply that. And we're going to see Europe not being able to step up because of its own energy security at stake.
We talk about sort of the potential hit, the economic hit. Can you give us a sense here of how we quantify that? Where do we expect to see, or where would we expect to feel some of the pain if this continues?
Yeah, because diesel is so deeply embedded in everything, and from manufacturing to transportation, we can expect expensive fuel to raise the cost of everything from a Thanksgiving turkey to electronics. And that's going to fuel inflation just when it seems to be getting a break from lower gasoline prices at the pump. So it's really everybody's going to feel it.
All right, something to keep an eye on, and a great story written today that really kind of breaks down just how deep this problem is right now and how deep it could get.
So, for those of you who may wish to support the show, right down you'll see a banner scrolling down. You can buy me a coffee, or you can Cash App. I'm new to this stuff, so I really don't know how to do it. My son put the stuff together for me. Technology is not my own, tell you that. But do you see the dire situation that the American Republic now faces? Huh? I mean, do you not see that everything around you? And if you see these things, and I ask you this, you've seen the show today and what we've presented before you. Are they not that are vital to you being empowered mentally to protect yourself from what the so-called learned and the scholars and the investors now see? And if we provided you an array of truth, now you have to say, how can I use this knowledge to benefit me and my family? How can I get from the coming onslaught of shortages of goods, the coming onslaught of the decline of the value of the money, the violence that will be there? You have to prepare yourselves. People will go to the gun store and prepare themselves. Man, listen to me good. Let me tell you something. And this is the point that nobody makes, okay? Because the preppers, everybody makes this. Well, you got to get you some guns, and you got to do this, and you got to do that. Let me tell you something. Saddam Hussein had a 1 million-man army with guns, tanks, rockets, missiles, bombs, grenades, warships, submarines, and that did not stop America's onslaught. Buying you 1 or 2 or 3 or 400 guns from the gun store and getting the ammunition is not going to stop what is coming. You understand? You want to be in the circle of safety with a God who's well able to save you from this stuff. And you have to truly believe that he's able to do that. Because Saddam believed in his guns, what that got him? I want you to see the madness in the thinking of relying on the gun. China has a peer military to America Does that stop America from provoking China? Russia has the largest nuclear arsenal on earth. Does that stop America from sending arms into Ukraine, from provoking Russia? So these destructive weapons don't stop the empire from coming. So do you believe some meager guns and bullets is going to stop the U.S. government from coming at you? Your only hope is in God. This is what I'm telling you. There's no out of this thing. And you've got to prepare yourself by getting supplies, food, water, medical supplies, everything that you can at this point while your dollar still can buy what it can in America, because soon the dollar will go poof and there will be a global sanction against America. The same tool that she uses on other nations, the nations are going to use on her. And it's not going to be a pretty picture or a pretty sight. And if you fail to prepare for what's coming, the economic, the political unrest, and the onslaught of a Category 5 hurricane economically, then you put not only you, but the lives of your children, wives, and the rest of your family at risk, especially after you have gotten knowledge and forewarning about what is coming. You don't want to be classified as a fool, because only fools do things like that. So I tell you that in the midst of all this, prepare yourself. Stay strong, stay true, but above all things, stay righteous and put your faith in unyielding, unfaltering God, who will never fail you and who has never failed in accomplishing his word. On that note, I love you. Y'all stay safe and stay strong. I got to say, Mama, I love you, baby.